Okay, we're going to start the meeting. This is the Heritage Preservation Board. First off, let's see, Chairman, of course, roll call. We'll need a roll call.
Rucker.
Here.
Ms. Hallett.
Here.
Ms. Ryan. Mr. Mazinski.
Here.
Okay, call public comments. Don't have to do that. We don't have to approve the minutes this time, do we? Is that's not on agenda? Okay, that's done. Okay. Quasi-judicial, you want to go through that for us?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
This is a quasi-judicial proceeding where the Heritage Preservation Board acts in a quasi-judicial rather than a legislative capacity. At a quasi-judicial hearing, it is not the board's function to make law, but rather to apply law that has already been established. In a quasi-judicial hearing, the board is required by law to make findings of fact based upon the evidence presented at the hearing and apply those findings of fact to previously established criteria contained in the Code of Ordinances in order to make a legal decision regarding the application before it. The board may only consider evidence at this hearing that the law considers competent, substantial, and relevant to the issues. If the competent, substantial, and relevant evidence at the hearing demonstrates that the applicant has met the criteria established in the Code of Ordinances, then the board is required by law to find in favor of the applicant. By the same token, if the competent, substantial, and relevant evidence at the hearing demonstrates that the applicant has failed to meet the criteria established in the Code of Ordinances, then the board is required by law to find against the applicant. At this point, I'd like to ask the board if anyone has had any communications with the applicant.
No.
And does anyone feel they have a conflict of interest with this applicant?
No.
Okay, anyone that's going to be testifying, I need them to stand and raise their right hand. Okay. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony that you are about to give in this proceeding is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Okay, I'll turn it over to the
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, we're going to go on to application 21-109. This is on Cypress Street. There's no address on that because it hasn't been assigned. And staff, could you give us your report?
Yes.
Okay.
That beautiful lake right behind.
Okay. I don't have a clicker, so I'm doing this. Good evening, Pat McNeese, Principal Planner. This is an application for construction of a new single-family detached dwelling on Cypress Street between North Gross Avenue and North Leves Avenue. And the proposal is for single-family dwelling. The lot is 7,500 square feet, located in the R60 zoning district. This shows a little bit of a layout on the lot. This was, I think, two original lots combined. At one point, the lot to the left side, on the left side, that is owned by, or will be owned, I believe, by the city of Tarpon Springs, and will be part of the stormwater improvements that are going on in the city. So the lot on the right-hand side is the subject lot, and this area of Cypress Street, I'll show you some pictures of that. This is the lot. And this area is characterized by one-story, basically frame and masonry vernacular structures. This shows a little more of the street. Basically, what's being proposed is mimics the masonry vernacular style. It has some craftsman elements to it, including gable roof, front porch with flared columns, paired Queen Anne front window set, shingle siding, the cement siding accent, and bracket ornamentation, and shingle roof. So there, you can see listed there some of the materials. And we'll take a look at the site plan here real quick. One thing I will note is that the 23-foot setback to the porch is probably incorrect, and the applicant can speak to this. The front facade of the house entry is 25 feet back. The garage in R60 is required to be 25 feet back, so they do meet that. But the front porch should be bigger than 2 feet. That was, I guess, a typo on the site plan. They can have a front porch of up to 10 feet and still be back 10 feet from the front property line, which is the code requirement. So we'll take a look at the site plan. So this shows basically the site layout. They are retaining at least one shade tree on site. This shows the elevation, and I have a closer one there that shows the style of the house. It's basically not over, there's not too much ornamentation, but it's still bringing in some of that character to be consistent with the rest of the neighborhood. And I did want to note that the applicant did build 2 other homes, not exactly matching that style, but very consistent and congruent with the area. These are also on Cypress Street, but they're 1 block over, which is outside the historic district. But they are very nice additions to the neighborhood. So this was one. This was the other one. And these were built in 2018. I believe did retain some trees. One other feature that you would notice with those and with this that I like about this applicant, the way they are building these homes, is they're working with the site topography. So this, as you know, in this area and with our drainage project going on, we have lots of hills and valleys around here. Even though we're pretty high out of the flood zone, but there's a lot of issues. And they seem to work with the topography of the lot. So that's something that we like to see. A lot of times we'll see people want to bring in a lot of fill and level out a lot. So that is one added positive note on this. So staff is recommending approval of this project. It does meet the standards of the R60 zoning district and is consistent with the city's comprehensive plan. And we just have the condition that the certificate of approval will be good for 3 years, and a building permit will need to be pulled within that time frame. Are there any questions?
Actually, I have a question for some clarification, Pat. The guidelines that were mentioned for us to look at, one of them was number 12, new exterior walls. But the way I was reading it, that one was for existing walls that needed a repair, because it specifically says no concrete block.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure if I included that correctly. The exterior wall material is gonna be the stucco on the front, mostly on the front, plus the some of the porch elements, and then the painted struck block, I believe, on the sides and rear, and the applicant can confirm that. Yeah, in this case, you would just judge whether those materials for, I believe they're trying to mimic that masonry vernacular, whether those would be appropriate for this area and in the context of the neighborhood.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions?
No.
Thank you, Pat.
Okay.
You're welcome.
Okay. Okay, the applicant, do you have a presentation?
Good evening. My name's Ken Rush. I'm COO at Habitat for Humanity of Pinellas and West Pasco counties. I'll just piggyback on what Pat said. I apologize for the misnumber in the presentation that she put together. I can tell you there's never been a Habitat house that hasn't had a front porch probably at least 8 foot in depth, if not 10, and typically most of the municipalities require that. I'm not sure why that one said 2, because I can tell you, after being the construction department head for many years, you can't have a 2-foot step if you got a 3-foot door. So that wouldn't work. So I can assure you that we will absolutely have a porch much, much larger than 2 feet. More than likely, we will follow the municipal building code where the front facade will be 25 foot and on the front setback, and typically it's 10 foot to the front stoop or the front porch. As far as the exterior of the house, what you saw there on the 2 that we built back a couple years ago is kind of a cost-saving measure for us, but yet still conforms with most of the neighborhood. We will typically do a stuccoed finish on the front, stucco bands around the front windows and doors, along with either a tapered column or some form of a column to actually go along with the neighborhood design. Normally, that stucco front will actually have a 2-foot return around the sides, and then from there we will actually do a struck block painted finish down both sides and the rear of the property, where typically it's not seen by as much. If in fact we have done some street side properties in the past, we would also stucco the street side as well to make sure that it has the same finish from any type of a curb appeal, if you will. And we would be more than happy to look at that if in fact the panel actually decides that they would like to see something a little bit different. The one characteristic that I would say our plans probably don't show as what would be a for-profit developer are the minute details and aesthetics that we actually will put onto a home. Again, if somebody would like to see something different, whether that means a coin above the garage door, whether that may be some hardy siding or some kind of shake shingle over a gable if we're doing a gable roof, we are very open to that kind of thing. The one thing that's exciting for us is we've had a lot more opportunity in the last few years to build in Tarpon Springs, and we keep trying to find property. As Pat mentioned, we did those 2 houses on Cypress. We actually own a lot on Gross. We own another lot right here on Leves. We have this one on Cypress. We've actually purchased a couple others on Boyer Street. And this particular project, you probably don't know, has been undergoing some form of evaluation for about the last 2 years. We purchased both properties side by side, as her drawing alluded to. And unfortunately, it was only a few months ago that we were made aware that the city has a sewer line that runs basically right through the heart of the property to the west, therefore making it unbuildable. So through a whole lot of conversations and a whole lot of giving and taking, we actually struck a deal with the city to actually give them the lot that they can add to the stormwater area, and we're actually getting a lot from them located someplace else throughout the city. So this particular homeowner chose this lot over a year ago. We moved her off of it at one point. Now we've put her back on it again, and she is I can't even tell you how excited she is to find out what the outcome of this meeting is today, because our permit's already literally sitting at the office waiting to be pulled. So with your good graces and everything goes well, we hope to be under construction probably within a couple weeks. Thank you. Have any questions for me? I'd be more than happy.
Is there any questions?
No, I think it's wonderful.
It really does look good.
Thank you, guys.
Do I have a motion?
Actually, I just have a quick question
Sure.
first, if you don't mind. What is the setback from the street to the porch?
To the porch, I do believe it's 15 feet.
15.
Allowable.
And how does that line up with the other houses on the block as far as setbacks go?
25 feet is the front facade, if I'm not mistaken. Pat, correct me if I'm wrong, which that meets every single house that you'll see running east and west in both directions.
Okay.
The front porch would be allowable, I think, up to 10 foot in depth, which would be a 15 foot to the front of the actual stoop of the porch.
Okay. And I'm going to, I guess, show my ignorance here. I've never heard the term struck block. Is that just concrete block?
Yeah.
I've never heard that term
No,
before.
typically, there's 2 different ways to finish it.
I'm not from here, so.
That's okay. Typically, struck block would be a completely masonry CMU or concrete masonry unit. A concrete block house, well, they'll actually take a strike-hole and they'll actually strike the mortar joints, but
That's what I-
typically they only do the actual horizontal, not the verticals. So you actually have straight lines going down the sides and across the back. We also will do what's called a finished joint, which is actually they'll take a sponge and they'll actually wipe it down. It gives it more of a smooth finish. But in my experience, whenever they've done that, any imperfection in the block laying itself is certainly a whole lot easier to see. At least the struck line gives it something that visually takes your eye away from some of the imperfections.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
It's kind of what I figured, but thank you for the
You got it.
clarification.
That explains one of the old houses I used to have.
There you go.
Okay.
And the one I have right now.
Let's see. Do you have a,
I make a motion.
okay,
I make a motion that we accept the application 21109 as presented.
okay. Second?
I'll second that.
Any discussions between us before we go?
No?
No, I don't think so. Okay. Okay, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Mr. Mrozinski,
Yes.
Ms. Hallett,
Yes.
Mr. Sprecher.
Yes. Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you. That was very well done. Okay, I think that's about it.
I think it's wonderful.
Okay. That cheat sheet here. Okay, Pat, do you have any comments?
No comments this evening, thanks.
Okay. Board, any comments before we go?
No,
I do.
Yeah, sure.
I just wanted to mention, I don't know if you guys were part of it or not because we couldn't see everyone that was at the meeting, but I attended that NAPC Zoom class. What does it stand for? National Alliance of Preservation Commissions. And there was, Pat sent us out the information a couple of weeks ago. And I actually attended it. It was last Thursday and Friday morning, 3 hours each. Very informative. When they got into tax incentives, I fell asleep, but everything else was really good. And what they're going to be doing is sending all the participants an email. She said it was going to come this week with basically the whole, I'm assuming the whole PowerPoint presentation.
Good, yeah.
I don't know if you guys would be interested, but I thought maybe I'd
Yes.
send it to you. But they're probably going to give it to you anyway.
Well, I was registered, but unfortunately due to workload, I was not able to attend, so.
It was really
If
good.
you, I'm sure it was.
It was really good.
If you would send it to me, that would be great, and I can distribute it to the other members.
Okay,
That would be good.
And there will be another session on the 24th. I'll resend it to everyone if you're interested. Unless there's a real emergency around here, I am going to sit through that. That is on. Basically flood and sea level rise impacts, hazard impacts to historic resources, and that's something we'll be working on here with our grants, so
good.
that would be great, thanks.
And
Mr.
Pat,
Rivers.
one of the questions they asked the participants was whether or not we had a preservation plan. And I know we've got our guidelines. Do we have an actual preservation plan?
Well, we have a historic element in our comprehensive plan, so I would say that's our preservation
That would be a
plan.
Okay,
The comprehensive plan, of course, is going to be updated. We've just retained a consultant on that, so we'll be looking at that element for updates.
good. Thanks. That's all.
Okay. Okay, then, with no comments, I call this meeting adjourned. This is obviously the fastest meeting we've ever had. Unbelievable. Thank you for coming.
it's worth getting cleaned up, right?
Oh, no, it was worth it.